Their first race was the Slick 50 Nationals in Houston. The final round was Ron Ayers against Lance Boyer.
This was rather an unusual final because you don't normally find Ron Ayers out of Greenville, North Carolina, and Lance Boyer from Pickerington, Ohio, side by side on the starting line waiting for a green light.
One reason we saw this pair is that Dave Schultz crashed in qualifying hard, but was A-OK. This was a great race nonetheless. Ayers won it at a 7:88, 171 miles an hour, and the Pro Stock Bike Tour moved on to North Central Florida and the Gator Nationals. And by that time, Dave Schultz had healed from falling off the bike in Houston.
Here again, because of the rain, the finals delayed into the dark of the night. And the Rookie of the Year in 1992 from Champlin, Minnesota, John Smith, challenged Dave Schultz out of Fort Myers, Florida. Schultz had finished second in the Winston Chase in 1992.
And like a typical motorcycle racer, he cut the cast off of his arm before the final round. He left on Smith, but it still wasn't enough. Smith won it at 7:68, 173 miles an hour. Schultz had to settle for runner-up. He wouldn't settle many more times in 93.
It was in Atlanta, Georgia that David Schultz brought an incredible string to another championship round appearance. Schultz had never lost a race at Atlanta. His competition in the finals was John Myers, the Winston champ of 1992.
As the RPM screamed, Schultz was thinking, I gotta give this one to my wife Meredith. It's her birthday. John Myers gave it to her instead with a red light. Schultz won it at 7:87 to a 7:90 red light of the way.
Englishtown, New Jersey in the Mopar Parts Nationals. It was the finals again, featuring John Myers in the Star Racing Suzuki. The Sunoco Suzuki of David Schultz was alongside, and this was one of the rare occurrences that John Myers did not leave a red light at the starting line, and he picked up the big win light at the finish with a 7:66 elapsed time at 172 miles an hour. From Englishtown, New Jersey, it was on to Columbus, Ohio.
And we had to have a final without David Schultz. He didn't make it. Red lighted in the very first round. John Myers, he made it to the final against Paul Gast. And I'll tell you, this was one of the best races of the year. Had Gast had a better reaction time, it would have looked closer down at the finish line, but the elapsed time was very, very good. Myers, using that air shifter, finally gets her into high gear, charges for the beams, and clack, a 783 to 163 to Gast 788 at 170. Now, let's go back to kind of present tense, in the past tense, Denver, Colorado.
And the Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals, and there's certainly a reason for that title. Over 5,200 feet in altitude, a lack of oxygen here affected every race car and motorcycle on the track as John Myers and David Schultz squared off again. And once again, John Myers red lighted.
We felt like the momentum was going our way at Columbus. We didn't win the race, so we felt like we had to win this race. Took us a while to get a hold of the track, but with the new power we got a hold of the track.
The Pro Stock points found John Myers in the lead after Denver with David Schultz not that far behind. John Smith, Byron Hines, and Paul Gast rounded out the top five.
Let's have a look at Pro Stock car style. Bob Glidden racing Scott Jeffrey on. Dave McClellan, I said it then in Denver, I'll say it now. Bob Glidden used this kid like a doormat. Burned him down like he tried to do Warren Johnson earlier in the year.
It was in Memphis that Bob Glidden admitted that maybe he would play a game or two on the starting line. He did it again, and it helped.
When you get on the starting line, you just do whatever comes normal. Sometimes you stage quick, sometimes you don't. I didn't see Buster in the window counting down, so I didn't think it was any problem. Whatever happened on the starting line had no bearing on the race. He apparently broke something or did something wrong.
Well, the bearing it had, Scott Jeffreyon ran quicker than Bob Glidden and had a almost 0.2 of a second slower reaction time. In the finals, Bob Glidden and Warren Johnson squared off, and it was Glidden winning it at the finish line, and Rusty Glidden had the comments.
It was a really tough weekend. We brought a new engine out, and it looks really good. It was in my car. I didn't qualify. Dad, he wasn't really running good. But by God, he's the best driver in this country, and he always will be.
2 miracles in one day. Too much for any of us.
You've been eating your Wheaties or what? 2 terrific hole shots.
I don't know what the last light was. The semifinals was nothing special. Sometimes you're off, like Scott in the semifinals was off a little. I didn't do anything special, for sure.
It looks like maybe some R&D has paid off, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we were just very lucky today. That's the way we look at it.
Lucky and pretty darn crafty, I might add. All right, John Force, they love him in Denver. He's matched race here a lot. And in the second round, he was up against who else but Cruz Pedregon. This was a very difficult track for the funny car breed. In the thin air, their aerodynamics don't work as well, and they lose traction very easily. Force got whipped by a 562.
We've tried a lot this year to beat Force, and it's been tough on us, mentally and physically. But the McDonald's car put it together here. That's part of the game out here. It's tricky out there, and the crew chiefs and the guys are doing a good job.
You gotta quit smoking the tires if you want to win, though. You know that.
Coming into this deal, we talked, Mike Green and I, and we said, we can't smoke the tires if we want to win, and that's holding true. But Forrest evidently did the same thing. I want to say hi to everybody at home, and thank the fans for supporting. It's been a long season so far, but we're back.
They may be back, but it was still John Force with a substantial lead in the Winston chase. In the top fuel round number 1, Shelly Anderson raced Kenny Bernstein. KB had a red light. Shelly took the win. Doug Herbert came up in the semifinal round against Eddie Hill. Hill, of course, trying to extend his Winston points lead as a result of Bernstein going out in the first round. Tried to take advantage of the situation, smoked the tires, was unable to do so, and Herbert was the winner.
Obviously Eddie's been just kicking buns every run, and to come up here and I saw, he was out in front of me, and then I don't know whatever happened to him, and we just motored on by. It felt pretty good all the way down. So
kind of huffed and puffed to a 537.
Well, rather be lucky than good. That's part of drag race. We've had our bad luck, so maybe it's time for a little good luck.
While Herbert and Hill got together, Scott Coletta hoped his number 1 qualifying spot would pay off in his semifinal race against Mike Dunn. Not to be.
Well, this car, whenever it doesn't drop a cylinder, it usually puts a number on the board, and it's tricky out here today, and I got my work cut out for us, and so does everybody on the team, but we're hanging in there, and hopefully we'll be here when the sun goes down.
Well, Darrell went back to his trailer, got a computer printout, went to work on the tune-up, was back out on the starting line as the sun actually was going down. His man Mike Dunn to face off with Doug Herbert. 2 really good race car drivers. Mike Dunn with far more experience behind the wheel than Doug Herbert, and tremendous string of reaction times. They've made it to the final round, they had not yet made it into the winner's circle. That would change in 5.14 seconds. Mike Dunn, Darrell Gwynn, 271 miles an hour. Herbert just couldn't get a handle on it. Only a 524 at 269. Down at the far end, well, they were planning their victory celebration at the nearest Mexican restaurant. As far as points were concerned, Eddie Hill didn't get hurt too bad with Dunn winning. Hill, Bernstein, Dunn, Coletta, and Amato the top 5.
1 week later, it was the wine country of Northern California, Sonoma, California, and the Autolite Nationals at Sears Point International Raceway.
In the Kenny Bernstein pit before the semifinal round, a heck of a thrash led by Dale Armstrong, who actually hit himself in the head with a breaker bar. They're having a problem with a bolt that holds the bottom pulley onto the crankshaft, and they had to get to the starting line, and did, as you can see, to face off with Eddie Hill. They had to stop Hill here.
Beyond the halfway point of the 1993 season, every race was important, and this one between the 2 leaders in top fuel, even more so. Bernstein didn't stand a chance.
Fuzz and the guys have been doing a marvelous job in this heat. What a Pennzoil crew we've got, what fun we're having. Thank you, Pennzoil, thank you, Fuzz and the guys.
And what an ET you got, a 493.
493, oh, thanks again, boss.
Eddie Hill referred to it, and Steve knew what it was all about out there in the sunshine. It was 110 degrees at Sears Point.
You're right, downtown San Francisco was 95, an all-time record since they've been keeping weather records. All right, Corey McClanathan was up against Eddie Hill in the final round. Eddie Hill on this day, though, just had a little edge on everybody.
As he gave credit to Fuzzy Carter after that semifinal victory over Kenny Bernstein, Fuzzy deserved it here as Eddie picked up the win.
Everything just went swimmingly. I think we got a little help from the man upstairs. We got an awful lot of help from Pennzoil. And Fuzz and the rest of the Pennzoil crew did such a fantastic job in this heat. I mean, these guys probably got to sleep for 2 days. I mean, they are beat.
While Eddie celebrated his top fuel victory and extension of his Winston points lead,